2, 1. Sorry. Now we're live. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. You were talking, but it was like 7:01, and I was like, we blame Ken. Yes. Ha. Oh, hang on. Watch. Stop for a minute. She said that they can't hear you. Why can't? So it's shot. No, I'm just kidding. I had to do that. Oh, I see why. I'm sorry, y'all.
You hear me now?
Yes, they can hear you now.
You can hear me now? Well, that's no problem. We just told you all the secrets to life and how to win millions of dollars. But
I know
unless you guys can read lips, then you guys are in trouble. So that's all right. Anyhow,
I'm
yes,
so
we've known each other for a few years, and had you out for our event, had you out for the expo. But people like me may not know who you were or who you are until they actually tune into programs like this. So give us a little bit idea who Mr. Pat Fitzhugh is.
Well, do you want to hear the G-rated or other rated version?
This is a family show. We try to keep it family oriented.
G plus should be
keep your porn career out of
it. only Pat's.
Okay, well, I'm a native of Tennessee. I grew up in both Nashville and West Tennessee. Became interested in paranormal stuff at a very early age. You know, Halloween, trick-or-treating, reading, and telling ghost stories and all that. The first story that really got my attention was that of the Bell Witch, because my mother told me the story when I was very little, would even read me out of Bell Witch books and stuff. The big kicker there was that she was actually born and raised right there, very close to Ground Zero.
Oh, wow.
Ground Zero is in the present day, or near the present day town of Adams, Tennessee. And she was born and spent her earliest years in a place called Cedar Hill, which is right up the road. So she had heard about that Bell Witch story all her life, and even explained to me that the people that are mentioned in the legend were actually real.
Yeah.
You know, and she had gone to school with several people who were descendants of the Bells. So that got me interested in the Bell Witch, and that first and foremost, the Bell Witch is not my only paranormal endeavor, but it's the longest running one, and the one that I have done the most research on.
And you have a couple books about it. So
yeah, I'm in my 45th year of research on the Bell Witch now. There is, or there was a book out there called The Bell Witch Haunting. that I did back in 1999, which is kind of just an overview storybook, saying, hey, if you hadn't heard of the Bell Witch, you might want to read this. Here's what it is. Because by that time in Middle Tennessee and around Adams, by the 1990s, popularity of the Bell Witch legend had just really gone down. I mean, it had been going down ever since the 1800s after a guy wrote a fictional novel in 1894. That blew it up for a little while, but it had been going down. And I'd already been researching the legend for like 20 years when the book came out. But one of my goals was to reintroduce the legend to people, put Matt Adams back on the map, let people become acquainted with the different theories about it, let them hear some new theories and get a whole lot more information. So that is the Bell Witch and me, or the Bell Witch and I, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought about doing that for another book. I'm not in writing mode these days, but several people have asked me if I could, what about writing a book, a very big book with a lot of stories from all my days of paranormal researching, including, but mostly the Bell Witch, all the people I've met, all the situations I've been in, all the things I've seen and heard. There's a lot of information there for a book. But, with the other paranormal things, I've taken an interest mainly or mostly in Southern ghost lore, as I call it, ghost stories, folklore, centering on historical hauntings.
Hauntings Ghostly Cries from Dixie book.
Ghostly Cries from Dixie is a book. It's a collection of ghostly tales from around the American South. And my approach in that is to tell the historical story of the location, then of events that actually happened that were conducive to a haunting. Then I go into the different things that have happened and been reported over the years at those locations, the conclusions that investigators have made, that sort of thing. And then I offer my own take on it. So I did that with a bunch of locations around the Southeast. I've been to other places as well. I've done Texas. I've done the Queen Mary in California. I've been to Washington, D.C.
We just talked about Texas not too long ago. It's that weird country far off, right?
Tejas.
Tejas, yeah. That's right.
What's it called? Texarkana, Mexarkana, or what they only have. Texas, they only have steers, right?
Big ones.
But they only have steers and ghost lights.
Yeah.
And you sure don't look like no steer to me.
Oh.
You're a ghost light. Yeah, there's one out there.
That's a nice way of putting that. I like that.
Have you heard have you heard of Martha?
I think I've heard of the Martha legs. I think I've heard of her. Yeah.
No, not Martha. Marfa, as in Marfa.
Martha. Okay. I was like, yeah, we know Martha.
And her cousin Martha Stewart.
What's a Martha?
And then there's another ghost light near Longview, Texas, and I've investigated, been to both of them, but the one down by Longview, Texas, is a little more better known but lesser understood. So I covered that one in Ghostly Cries from Dixie.
Yeah, I don't understand ghost lights. I guess I've never seen one, so I don't really know. But to me, it's like seems like it'd be easy to figure out. So, and unless I've been there, I don't know. I can't figure things out. But
it's interesting. Just about every ghost light has a legend behind it, and it's typically a Native American legend. Sometimes it's a legend of someone losing their head and going around with a lantern, swinging the lantern, looking for their lost head, and the lantern is the ghost light. Such as the case with the Chapel Hill ghost here in Middle Tennessee, and probably a couple hundred other ghost lights around the country.
Where do they get the lantern?
And then I'm sorry.
So where do they get the lantern? Where do they get the lantern? I don't
know. Maybe they have.
You lose your head, you get a lantern. That's a terrible. That is a terrible trade.
They
My
were
theory has
carrying the
always
lantern,
been
they lost their head.
all these ghost stories of these ghost lights that are supposedly headless people swinging a lantern looking for their lost head. My theory is that their head actually became the lantern, and they're never going to find a darn thing out there.
Yeah, I know
Their
this is a
head
family
became
thing,
the
but what are you
lantern that they're
smoking?
swinging.
That don't make any sense to me.
Oh, okay, Adrian, it's kind of like, where's my phone?
There's my phone.
Maybe
And you had your light
it's
on.
fire
Maybe-
or flame or
correct.
I don't know, energy.
Yeah. Well, you know,
Yeah.
and here we go with
Yeah.
that. There's also a skeptical theory, which pretty much has
Adrian.
been applied to everything.
Yes.
It is simply methane gas, also known as swamp gas, which can rise up and illuminate.
I have my own version of swamp gas, and it's never let out without a flame attached to it. So, well, just shake your head. Just shake your head.
And
I was young. I was young
Okay.
and in tech school in
Okay.
the military. So,
And some skeptics, I won't mention any names, also remind us wherever there are ghost lights, my God, there's cows around.
yes.
There's cows.
There's
Yeah.
what around
You get
them?
the methane from both ends, you
And
know.
then, yeah.
Not always though, because if you look at the spook light south of Joplin, the Hornet spook
I'm
light.
saying some skeptics.
Some skeptic. Some
But
Some.
usually, I mean, I don't know. I've never seen one, like I said, and you know, I never believed in ghosts until I seen one too. So I mean, you just don't know. Yeah. So I don't
that's
know.
true. That's true.
Healthy skepticism.
Yep.
I'm just not one for to go outside to investigate because we all know this story. Anyhow, so you basically are known for the Bell Witch, but you've also do just paranormal instruction as well, right?
Yeah. Yes, I am a paranormal researcher and author, paranormal investigator, and I occasionally teach classes in paranormal investigation.
Cool.
So
Very cool.
what's
And
like
I
the
have in
Go
the
ahead.
past, it doesn't happen much anymore. I guess nobody wants an old man anymore, but I used to go on a lot of other people's investigations, like public investigation events as a special guest investigator or special guest team leader, that sort of thing. And I also have from time to time put on my own public paranormal investigation events, in
I know
addition to the
you
ones I
you-
do with friends.
yeah, I know you used to
Cool.
do the thing at Octagon Hall every now and then.
Octagon Hall, places local to me usually, but not always. Octagon Hall was always a great one, still is a great place, very active. Magnolia Manor out in West Tennessee. My events out there, what I would do is rent out the entire mansion and the grounds and then sell tickets. And the tickets would include room and board in one of the B&B rooms for two people, hors d'oeuvres and champagne in the afternoon, breakfast in the morning, complete with actual moonshine, and of course
moonshine.
the all-night investigation.
When are we
Yeah.
going
So
to this one?
Yeah.
Well, that is, that those things were wildly popular. Every time I would book it and just post it, it would sell out. But of course, they only had like 4 or 5 guest rooms, so it was pretty easy to sell out. But yeah, you would pay like, I don't know what I charged, maybe it's 170 or something for 2 people.
Yeah, but for
and
the whole thing, that's a pretty good deal.
yeah,
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 that's not bad at all.
they get the overnight ghost investigation plus paranormal training class plus wine and hors d'oeuvres that afternoon before the investigation, and a full home cooked breakfast the next morning, and to get to sip moonshine that the owner had.
I'm
So that was
all for
Magnolia. It is no longer long, lengthy story there, but the place had to be put up for sale. And when I heard that, I immediately thought, well, I need to go out and try to buy that, but I know I'll never have that kind of money. And then I never heard another word. And then recently I found out it sold for about a fifth of the amount of money that I thought it would have sold
Ah.
for. And had
Oh,
I owned
no.
it back then, I would have bought the sucker and had a lot of money even left over.
Right?
But
Of course, that
no.
was back then. But, so there are no ghost tours or investigations there anymore. And I'm not sure they're even using it as a bed and breakfast.
Oh.
So that was one of the places. There was Octagon Hall. That was a good one. Another one up in Kentucky, northwest of there, was called Wheeldon Manor, which was
I think
up
I've heard
in,
of it.
which is Central City, Kentucky. It's actually about 5 miles from where my daddy and his family were from and grew up. It's a huge building that covers, I think, 1 to 3 street blocks in Central City. It's a huge, gigantic building, abandoned. And, it's of the caliber that, TV shows could go in there with like 30 and 40 investigators and split them into teams and do like a mega event.
Yeah.
Or
Oh.
like me, I would do my events with like, 10 to 15 people, and we would spread it out into 2 teams and cover, maybe 6 to 8 rooms all night long, even though there were probably 70 or 80 rooms.
Oh yeah.
But,
No, I get it.
Hey,
but each
Pat?
investigation event, we would cover different rooms that we did before. That place was active like crazy. We had one really interesting phenomenon hit us there. We had both males and females. We were all in this one room. We had a flashlight on the bed, the thermal energy thing, but the light was on, and there was I think a K2 meter next to it. And all the women in the group said, "Look, look, look." And they started freaking out. The light and the meter was moving. They were moving by themselves across the bed.
Oh, rolling.
But the
Wow.
guys, including myself, were like, "Oh, you're full of it. That's not true. We don't see it moving. Prove it." So one lady cranked up her video, made a video of it, and we played it back. And in the video, we saw those items moving across that old bed.
Wow.
Yeah, right on.
We did not see those through the naked eye, but through the video, we saw those clearly, absolutely moving.
Wow.
cool.
And another investigation, there was one of our people there, one of my customers, friends too, went off into one area of the building by herself to look around, something I don't ever encourage people to do, but hey, it's a free world, a free country. So she did that and came back and started feeling kind of funny or something. And all of a sudden her neck looked like it had just been scratched all the pieces.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
And I've heard a lot of stories, a lot of things we probably don't have time to get into tonight, but a lot of very, very dark, unmentionable things just about happened there in that building over the years. It's a very old building. It used to be a railroad hotel. It used to be an illegal gambling hall. It used to be an illegal house of prostitution. All these things going on down in the basement of that, death and a lot of crime and bad stuff. And so Wheeldon Manor was another really good investigation place.
They're not doing anything there anymore.
hey, Pat.
There were some issues with the building because, like I said, it was abandoned, and I think there were some issues with some water and a lot of problems with roof. And the owner decided that it would be best not to do anything there until he can address those issues to make it at least safe enough.
No,
And
I get that.
I've already been told as soon as it's made safe enough, I'll get the call.
Yeah, right on.
Hey,
I'll set something else up.
I'm sorry, Pat, on Wheeldon Manor, is that like a big sprawling campus? Because I was in Central City maybe about 6-8 months ago.
Man, you're everywhere.
Well,
He is everywhere.
I have kids in Virginia, so I cruise through you guys' area all the time. I take different routes back. I take 2 days to come back instead of going straight through. But I've been in Central City, and there's a huge campus that I was kind of just taking pictures. It looked like an old, just a lot of huge buildings in there. And I think the one that I finally saw a living person actually said he lived there. So is that kind of what you're talking about? It's an old area?
I don't know
or am I talking
if anybody. I don't know if anybody lives there right now. It is in the very old section of Central City. I
Okay.
remember when I was a kid, when I would go up there on the weekends to see my grandparents would ride around town. It's in the old area of Central City. It is a very old looking red brick building.
Okay.
It's several street blocks long. It's either 2 or 3 stories high.
Oh yeah, it's
And
big.
along the back of the building runs the railroad tracks. They're up on a trestle and it runs right behind almost touching that building.
Okay, because I'm not sure if it's the same place, but these were red brick buildings, but there were probably a wide area of campus, big parking lots, and probably 4 or 5 of these larger buildings that I had seen. I don't know if it was that place or if there's another place in that area.
That was, it sounds like you're talking about the old downtown Central City. Wilden Manor is part of it, but it's not a cluster of buildings. It's just one single, what seems to me like a dark, gloomy, looming, huge building. It's the biggest building there,
Okay.
and old and practically almost abandoned looking. Which, of course, to me, that piques my interest, and I think that's beautiful because I'm all about old
Absolutely.
abandoned buildings and stuff. But yeah, it's a
Yeah.
standalone building. There is no parking lot. I think somebody can go under the railroad bridge up near the other end and maybe find a spot. Otherwise, you have to park on the street. And it's catty cornered to a dentist office.
Okay. Yeah, I may have seen it, but I may be thinking of just like an old hospital or something.
There,
And that was a kind of a big campus. That might have been what I'm thinking of. I'll have to look at my photos, pull those up later and just see if it's the same thing.
So
yeah,
you've
and
been all over. Go ahead.
I was going to say, there've been some other places too, like up northeast of Nashville. There's a place called the Thomas House that's had quite a bit of publicity. Some of the like the TV shows have been there and stuff, but have done events there, both Bell Witch lecture dinners, dinner lectures, Bell Witch weekends with ghost hunts involved in that, where somebody gets their room and board for a night, gets a full country dinner, the full lecture, paranormal training class, paranormal investigation all night long, and a country cooked breakfast the next morning. So we did that there too. And again, that was like one of my public ticketed events. And typically, I like to do that. You've got to give people reason to come there besides just paranormal investigation. Give them something to enjoy, an old rustic place. A place where they can kick back, relax, and of course have the good food and stuff.
Yeah, I like good food and stuff.
Me too.
But, so everybody's got the thing that they're like drawn to, like the type of investigation they like to do. For me, I personally, I like hospitals. So if I can get into a hospital, I'm very happy. I feel since that my whole life has been working in hospitals, medical facilities. So what draws you? What's like, oh, I want to go do that?
Well, what draws me is history. Not just the haunted history, but the history of a place. I've always been a big fan of history and been intrigued by it. And that makes me want to visit a place. And I know that if a place is really old, no telling how much spiritual residue has been baked into those walls.
Yeah.
And still exists there. So I naturally, gravitate towards places like that. You mentioned hospitals. I know there are things people are drawn to. Some people love graveyards, and I have a theory about those. Hospitals. Some will go after the hospitals. Some the insane asylums. But I tend to go after, and investigate, whatever intrigues me from a historical perspective, and where I think there might be some unexplainable activity.
Yeah. Yeah. See, like I said, I've always been I like hospitals, medical facilities. I just just because I feel more comfortable with it. I know a lot of people get into these places and they get kind of turned around and don't
Yeah, well,
know what this is and what that is, and I'm like, no, this is that. So it makes a lot of sense.
you're in healthcare, and so am I.
Yeah.
So that might be why we go towards those places. Waverly Hills, of course, that's probably the most famous or infamous hospital, at least paranormally, there is. And I also cover that in Ghostly Christ of Dixie. I was up there. I've been up there, I think, a couple times. This was back in the good old days. But had some very interesting experiences there with some wires burning and singeing, but yet there had not been any electricity in that building in 60 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, standing in a room, I think it was one of the surgical rooms. It was like 2 stories above or 1 story above and adjacent to the old kitchen that was used. And, out there watching the fog dissipate and the sun come up one morning and smell breakfast cooking.
Oh.
Yeah.
But that kitchen hadn't been used in the Lord knows how many years.
Wow.
That was pretty cool. Even though I was able to debunk that very quickly.
I'm pretty able to. I'd be like, their house is all around.
Well, no,
they're making bacon. I'm going to knock on your door. Hey.
It was warm and there was a lot of moisture and a lot of residue and a little bit of wind. I think what that did was got into the chimneys and the smokestacks over where the stoves and ovens were. And some of that, no telling how many years of, grease or whatever in those smokestacks kind of just emitted a little bit of a gaseous something or another.
I just Tina and I went to Waverly not too long ago at an event. And I know it's an event, so it's hard to truly investigate, but neither one of us really experienced anything while we were there. We kind of like, boo.
That's what the
way to go for nothing.
Right.
But we know they're not trained monkeys. They're not going to perform. Yeah. Look, I've driven all this way. Do something. Show yourself. But they're like, so.
Went to an abandoned place in Indiana last fall, I guess it was, and middle of nowhere, and we're walking down this one hallway in the dark, and all of a sudden we start smelling chocolate chip cookies. Fresh chocolate chip cookies baking. It's like, oh my God, this is so good.
Chocolate chip.
Chocolate chip.
It was yummy.
Indiana
I might end up cooking
Sanitarium.
chocolate chip cookies tonight.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, you smell popcorn at different places, and there's all sorts of crazy stuff like that. I love Waverly though. I really do.
No, I think so. To come back to this, you started doing the paranormal stuff. When you first started, I know your mom got you interested in it with the Bell Witch stuff, but what was your first thing?
My first.
Yeah, what was your first? What would you call your first paranormal thing?
First paranormal thing. Back in those days, I don't think EVP had been discovered yet, or if it had, it was probably over in England by a group of scientists.
Yeah.
A friend and I would sometimes go to this old abandoned house atop a hill up the street from where the friend lived. And we would just hang out there. We'd usually tell some ghost stories. This would usually be in the afternoons after school or something.
Yeah.
And we'd get scared and then run out of there. Well, one day, both of us, I don't think it was just me, I think it was both of us, we had the idea of taking my Radio Shack tape recorder, old-fashioned one as of now, but old Radio Shack cassette recorder, which I had used to record my guitar lessons on when I was a kid. Take that up there with a blank cassette to that old house, put it on record and leave it and come back and get it the next day.
Yeah.
So we did. and we played the tape back, and we heard a lot of very strange and squishing sounds, a lot of very strong wind that you would not have heard unless there had been an active storm warning out, and there hadn't been. Just a lot of really weird things going on there. Something like walking across the floor and then stopping. Like it never went anywhere. It walked and it seemed like it would get closer to the tape recorder and then it would stop and then you would never hear it walk away.
Oh,
You know, some really weird things like that. Of course, this was before the days of putting out like digital camcorders and stuff like that. I mean, we were just playing with a little analog cassette recorder. So we thought that that was very interesting. And I would say that was my first paranormal thing, even though, of course, we were too young to try to debunk any of that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Could y'all get
anyway,
yourself out?
And we never, ever set foot in that house ever again.
That's funny. No,
Interesting. A couple of years later, it burned, even though nobody lived there.
oh, yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
sad.
you started as a kid. I mean, really, truly, as a kid, being interested in this stuff.
Oh, yeah. As a kid, you know, it was just, I don't know, I guess it was how my mind was wired. You know, my mother telling me about the Bell Witch, you know, all these people were real and they lived such and such, or the book says so and so lived so and so, but word of mouth is he really lived over at so and so. You know, all this information. And, you know, that my question was, well, what about the Bell Witch? Was that real?
Yeah.
And of course, she couldn't answer. Well, her answer was that the Bells had a daughter who was kind of mean, and people called her the Bell Witch. I don't, yeah, and I don't believe that theory, but at any rate, that's what my mother dismissed it as.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think the Bell Witch is? Or you got to save that for your presentation. You don't want to give that to the world.
Oh,
That's
over
gotta
the
be
past few years, about the past 4 or 5 years, a lot of really, really important information has come to light, and it has forced me to dig up information that I had written down on index cards before I even had computers, to look at a lot of things and piece a lot of things together. And
excuse me.
I'm very confident that I know exactly what it was.
Oh, yeah?
But I'm not at the point where I'm ready to share that part.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that.
I've actually looked at several different things, all of which were scientific. I've written letters to esteemed professors and gotten responses back for their opinions on different things. And, you know, it's just not really the time to release that yet. And I'm not sure the best way to release it. I don't know that a book is the best way. I just don't know yet. But that, with the Bell Witch legend, it's still not going to go anywhere, because no matter what theory anybody has or what kind of information they have to back it up, there will only be so many people that like it, so many people that don't.
Oh, yeah. No,
you know, it goes back to, you know, what constitutes proof? How do you know you solved something?
Yep.
Well, just because everybody disagrees with you doesn't mean you haven't solved it.
True.
So, you know, it's just, you know, one of those things. It's going to be tricky. But I will share that. You know, I don't know that it solved anything. You know, people will always believe what they want to believe.
Yeah.
It's what they ought to believe, what they have gleaned from experiences on their own, research on their own. So
I'm looking forward to hearing that. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I didn't know that
I don't
there
think
was
anybody
that much
can put
left
forth
to
any
explore.
theory about it and it be universally accepted at all. So, you know, all I can do is put this out there.
That's
at some point.
Very cool.
Cool.
Well, even if it all gets totally debunked and all gets whatever, it's the longest running American haunting story. So
it's one of the longest.
Yeah.
Well, it's the most popular.
It's the most popular. So, but
I got a question.
I will say, I'll say this much.
Excuse me.
something very odd, very strange did in fact happen on the John Bell farm between 1817 and 1821. That is definitely true. Now, as for what and some different theories and how everything came to what it is now, that's a whole different story for a whole different planet. But
Oh yeah,
yeah, there was something to it for sure.
bad neighbors.
Well,
So Pat, I got a question for you. How has all of this research and the stories that you've heard and the book that you've written, how has that really affected you personally?
How has it affected me personally?
Or has it?
I mean, I'm not sure I understand the question. Are you asking?
Has it had any personal effect upon you based on everything and spending so much time researching, writing the books?
I don't feel anything bad has come my direction because of it at all, or anything more bad than what would come at anybody else that writes books. Of course, I've had plenty bad come my direction, but it's not associated with anything paranormal or paranormal life, but just bad luck. I'm one of those who's prone to it. I don't know what effect it had. It has. That's a great question. It made me use the internet a whole lot more. It made me learn a whole lot about online marketing, online search engine optimization, data analytics to make sure websites are getting the right traffic, learning all about the book publishing process from start to finish, learning all about PR, about having to market and promote events and things like that. That's what it's done. In the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's made my life any better than it would have been or worse.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know because some people, when they do so much research over such a long time, it becomes an obsession.
No, I'm not.
But it sounds like you don't, because you're all over the place.
Well, yeah, I'm not. I'm not an obsessionist. I never have been. But I know what you're saying. I've known of people who research certain cases for so long that they dig themselves so deep into it that they think they own the cases.
Oh
Yeah.
God, yes.
Or
I even, I know of one case where somebody thought so much that they owned a particular story and everything about it that they even tried to trademark the name of it.
Oh my God.
And it was the Bellwitch. It was the Bellwitch.
Wow.
Yeah.
There are some people out there that, think that no one else has a right to tell the story of the Bellwitch, much less mention it, unless they have that person's permission, because that person supposedly owns it. There's a lot of that goes on in the Bellwitch world, as well as other areas of the paranormal. I could talk about several things, but to me, digging oneself to the point of obsession is when the person's view and perception becomes distorted.
Oh, yeah.
And they're researching, presenting, and arguing their case from a distorted perception rather than a clear 50-50 balanced research perspective, which is what I intended to do when I set out, even as a kid, and what I do now. Everything is 50-50. There's a 50% chance it could be paranormal, 50% chance it could be non-paranormal. Going either way in either direction creates bias, which in turn takes credibility away from the researcher. So I split it all 50-50, and I don't like to distort, or won't let my perspective get distorted. Very dangerous territory.
Well, very good.
Let's throw a little curve. Let's throw a curve into this. Now, not only are you into paranormal stuff, but you also play the guitar, correct?
I play at it.
You play at it. Have you ever tried to use music in order to elicit a response paranormally?
I did. I think one time over at one of the locations where I was having a public ticketed event, somebody had brought a guitar, or there was a guitar laying around or something like that. And I wasn't trying specifically for a paranormal response, but I just picked it up and started playing it. And some people's K2 meters went off. One guy was listening to EVP. I did not catch what he was hearing, but he said he was hearing some voice trying to sing.
Ah.
And what it was around the time that little guy over, where is he? The little guy over in Korea was talking about shooting us with rockets or something, whatever that little guy's name is.
The little guy in Korea, we'll just call him that.
The little, I don't know,
That
like
little dude.
Hey, we got,
watermelon.
I'm just saying, we have listeners all over the world here. And,
yeah, he may hear me.
Yeah.
He may hear me and shoot a rocket at me. But I think we were at a break during the investigation. We were taking a break during the investigation, and we started talking about this guy. And somebody said his name, called him Rocket Man.
Yeah.
So I just picked up the guitar and started playing the song called Rocket Man by Sir Elton John on it.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. A few years ago, I did co-write a song called The Bell Witch, Let the Game Begin. Co-wrote it with a guy named Mike Richards, and I did guitars and vocals, which was actually storytelling, and Jimmy Williams did the actual singing part. And Let the Game Begin. It's an Americana folk type tune. It made it all the way. I think it was number 3 on the international blues and roots music charts.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
at one point, which that worked out.
I need to find that on YouTube. You're gonna have to.
Oh yeah, it's called The Bell Witch, Let the Game Begin, and there's also a video trailer. With us talking about the song and everything. But
so you're playing guitar on that?
Yeah, I actually wrote the guitar part to it and the little intro lick and all that.
Are you wearing tight spandex? Come on, tell me you're wearing tight spandex.
I got a question.
Oh yeah,
smashed his guitar. He
I got a
smashed his
question.
guitar. Went up in flames.
I got a question.
She's got a question.
Actually, our Norwegian friend has a question. First, he wants to say, I like this. It is so helpful on my OCD. The guys have the same shape of their beard.
They do. I didn't notice that. Awesome.
But his question, Pat, is, was the Bell Witch a white witch or a black witch, a healer, or one that did damage?
Okay, as when we say a white witch or a black witch, I'm assuming we mean we're doing white magic, harmless versus black magic, a healer versus a harmer.
Yeah.
That depends on who you were. John Bell, the father of the family, and the youngest daughter, Betsy Bell, they were tortured physically, given a lot of trouble. They bore the brunt of most all of the physical disturbances, but the other children had physical things done to them too, slapping across the face, being pushed out of chairs, being hit violently, and that sort of thing. But then if you look at Mrs. Bell, mother of the family, she became very ill, and according to this legend, this entity, brought her grapes and hazelnuts and sang hymns and sweet songs to her and prayed over and over that she recovered from her illness. And she did recover. Now, I've got my own little take on this. I think the whole thing was malevolent. And here's why I say that. It would attack people through whatever their path of least resistance was. Some people are physically stronger than others. Others are mentally stronger. So we had John Bell, 70 years old, Betsy Bell, when this started, like 11 years old, I would say, by their ages, they were probably not very strong physically. At least John Bell probably wasn't as strong at 70 as he was when he was 26. And then Betsy was only 11. So that made the easiest path of least resistance to attack them and get to their soul through their physical aspects. They were weaker, so this thing went after them physically. Now, turn it around. You've got Mrs. Bell, Lucy Bell. She gave birth to 9 children before the time of epidurals.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's her heart.
It's my opinion, because she was able to birth 9 children without any kind of medicine or pain stuff, that Mrs. Bell was the strongest member of their immediate family. Followed closely by John Bell Jr., who was supposedly like 6'4" and weighed about 240. What's odd is, even though this thing would sing to Mrs. Bell and make her feel comfortable and try to get her to heal, it was also forcing her to watch her daughter and husband get beat mercilessly, which is an attack on her mind, not on her body. Her body was too strong, but her mind was not as strong.
Yeah.
In fact, documents have shown where, well, there's no documents where she signed anything, but John Bell did. So, some feel that maybe she didn't even know how to read or write. But bottom line, she was stronger physically, so the thing went after her mind. Old Lucy, I love you. Get well. By the way, look over here. I'm beating your daughter and your husband to death. So it was a psychological attack. Now, John Jr., John was very partial to his younger siblings, both the males and females. He was very protective over them. And, to him, this thing wasn't going to mess with him. He was too strong physically. So it forced him to endure watching his siblings get beat up.
Wow.
And, that's my theory. It's path of least resistance. In fact, I have a YouTube video, very poorly done video, but nevertheless, it explains this path of least resistance theory. So I think it was a harmer.
Oh,
That's
my.
interesting.
Regardless of what it tried to make itself out to be. I think bottom line is it was a harmer.
Gosh.
Well, I mean, you started off with that you believe it's malevolent. I would think that would be. Yeah.
There
well,
you
yeah,
go.
If it's attacking people, yeah, it's pretty bad. But why do they say witch?
Why do they say witch?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of, or has been a lot of discussion about that. And back then, such a relatively short time, like 120, 130 years after the Salem witch trials, and in the buckle of the Bible Belt, people often referred to things that were not directly in line with Christianity, or things that they did not understand, that they thought were coming from a higher power, but not through the power of God, referred to it as devil stuff or witches and stuff like that. Now, as to how the term got applied to the Bell Witch, the legend, and again, this is only the legend, it says that future President Andrew Jackson came to visit the Bell family, which he might have, but there's no proof or anything that he ever encountered the Bell Witch. But he allegedly said that he would rather fight the British in New Orleans than to fight the old Bell Witch. And first known time that somebody called it the Bell Witch. So some say that that's how it got named the Bell Witch.
Wow.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
I remember the story about him, supposedly being there. But I didn't. That's cool that that's attributed.
Man, it's easier to fight something that you could see.
For sure.
Yeah, that's by far the most popular Bell Witch story that I'm asked to tell, is that of Andrew Jackson. Ironically, about 1.5 miles back here over my shoulder is the Hermitage where Andrew Jackson lived.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there. When I was a kid, I have been there. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a nice place. They've done a great job of preserving the place and, making it very tourist friendly, and the guides and everybody there do just a fantastic job. of keeping the place up and sharing the history.
Oh, went quiet.
Sorry,
we
I
have any-
can't say anything.
was
The
gonna
dog's barking.
Yeah.
We got
I
people at
okay.
the door.
People at the door.
Do we have
I was
any questions
writing
That's
down the
online?
terrible
name.
at this house when there's people at the door. We get the
Okay.
You get a whole chorus, don't you?
yes.
Adrian, hold on. Do we have any questions online? I can't get
Hang
to them.
on, I'm looking real quick. Pam can
anybody-
see in the YouTube.
Is anybody watching us?
We got
Yes,
Yeah, we've got people in
A
YouTube.
billion.
a
billions,
billion.
Cool.
billions. Some really angry ones over in Korea for some reason. The
Some real what? Angry ones?
in Korea, yeah, for some reason. That
North Korea.
yeah,
Duh,
I
just
need to duck
hold
down so
dawned
I
on
don't
me
get
what you
hit.
said.
never mind. I thought it was funny. Anyhow,
It is. It's funny.
Yeah,
I
that wasn't funny.
I cracked myself up.
No, it wasn't funny.
I am in the process. I don't know what happened. My browser crashed, so I got to get back into
Oh
the.
no.
Yeah, I got to
So-
get back
so
into
Pat, so Pat, other places you've been, have you had other experiences? And or maybe let me ask this question instead. What is your normal technique when you go out and do paranormal investigating?
Well, my technique depends on what type of investigation.
Okay.
Sometimes I go out with friends for just friends only investigations. Those are usually informal, low key investigations. But my technique there is simple: learn about the place before I go. And I know some investigators don't want to, they want to rely on their senses, but I like to learn about the place. I'll go in, I'll bring basic equipment, stuff I can carry around from room to room or all over the yard or wherever I am. You know, EMF, K2 meters, spirit boxes, cat balls, you know, stuff like that. And just the very basic stuff that's very portable. I'll go in with other people. We'll talk about what we're going to do, see who's going to be sitting up, you know, like any video cameras or stationary FLIR cameras or something like that. And we just go at it and basically investigate 30, 45 minutes, take a break for a few minutes, laugh and cut up, then go back at it. You know, the other investigation, public investigation events, ticketed public events, that investigation technique there is
Survive.
basically those usually have a whole lot of people. I have people who work with me and help me on those. We divide up in teams. We keep radio contact. We rotate at certain times, and we pay special attention to keep enough distance apart so that we don't contaminate evidence. So that we don't, for example, one place we were doing up in Virginia, it was called the Exchange Hotel. You know, we had a group downstairs, then another group on the third floor. We didn't want anybody on the second floor because it would contaminate evidence. While we had another group who was outside, and then another group who was outside but inside of an old kitchen building. So, you know, that's with the public investigations. And we typically bring the equipment stuff that's portable there. A lot of those people are not seasoned paranormal investigators, but maybe newbies or people who've never investigated and just want to learn. Now, for a more serious investigation, I'm going to study about the place. I'm going to visit the place. I'm going to take a K2 meter. I'm going to take several other things with me to measure things like humidity in the air, take a lot of notes, everything about the place. Then when it's investigation time, I'll come in early. I will baseline the place. I'll take a lot of readings of different things like K2 reading, where I can get readings like if the central air turns on, or if this curtain over here moves every time the air conditioning turns on, or somebody goes to the door, it causes a crack in the building somewhere down the way. You know, I get all of that information, I record it, and I have a baseline. Then I just do the investigation, take my evidence and compare it back against the baseline later.
Yeah, that's
Very good. Perfect.
Right on. So I meant to mention the Arkansas Paranormal Expo. You're going to be coming out to that, and that's in the end of October.
What's that?
Yeah,
I never heard that one.
You're coming
It's
out.
in Missouri this year. No.
Oh yeah.
The Arkansas
So-
Paranormal Expo in Missouri.
That's right.
Well,
Missouri would be so lucky. Anyhow, yeah. So are there any other events that you're going to be going to anytime here recent or soon?
Not many, but they will be good ones.
Yeah.
I have Haints and Heroes. That is going to be the weekend of October 20th through 22nd in Water Valley, Mississippi, just a few miles from where Betsy Bell settled when she left Red River, Tennessee to move to Mississippi, and where she's buried. That festival is about Northern Mississippi culture, includes legends, folklore, music, that sort of thing. And of course, you can't talk about North Central Mississippi legends and folklore without talking about the Bell Witch. It's just as popular there as the Bell Witch is popular in Adams here in Middle Tennessee. Wow. So, and Mississippi has its own version of the Bell Witch. He was a guy and his name was Gerald, but we can talk more about that some other time. But yeah, I'll be at that event on Friday night, the 21st, at a keynote event. I'll be talking about the Bell Witch, in particular, the Mississippi Bell Witch and the life of Betsy Bell after she moved to Mississippi from Tennessee. Then that'll be followed by a meet and greet and book signing event. Then I'm going to be hightailing it back to Nashville, a 5-hour trip back to Nashville. And the next morning, bright and early, on the 21st of October, I'll be at the Tennessee Haunts and Legends Expo at the Nashville Fairgrounds. I'll have a booth there with I guess you would call it a perpetual meet and greet for most of the day and book signing. And then at the end of the day, I'll have, I think, about a 25-30-minute speaking part where I will talk about the Bell Witch. And then, of course, Arkansas Paranormal.
Yeah, following weekend is with us, hanging out with us in Little Rock, and that'll be a good time.
Yeah, that's an awful lot of fun. It sure is. And I know you're going to have Bishop Long there.
Yeah.
Interesting side note, there was a character in the Bell Witch legend named James Long, but no relation. And I know I think you got Martha coming back.
Of course she is, yes.
And Debbie and all those names I remember. You got Ken coming back, Ken Gerhardt coming back.
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. And you know what I was thinking, about him, he's into the cryptid thing. Have you ever thought that the what do you call it? The acronym for Arkansas Paranormal Expo is APE.
APE, yeah.
So yeah, it always serves them right to have cryptid stuff going
on. That's awesome.
Yeah, but
I think somebody's already got that going on, but we won't talk about them. Anyhow,
those are my 3 events for this year. I could stand about 5 more, but they need
and everything gets crammed into like 1 week, basically.
That's the bad part. Yeah.
It actually works better for me because it's a lot easier for me to get a week off vacation than it is for little days here and there. But yeah, I could stand quite a few more local events. So if anybody here in Middle Tennessee has an event or wants to have an event, just get in touch with me, and by golly, we'll make it happen.
And there we go. It said, get in touch with me. How would people do that?
Okay, to get in touch with me, there's patfitzhugh.com, which is my author and miscellaneous website. There is also Bell Witch. It's called the Bell Witch site. It's bellwitch.org website. Those are the best places to get in touch with me, and via email.
Excellent.
Just click the little comment button, and from there, the sky's the limit.
But did we just lose Pam?
I think we did.
We just poof. Oh, there she is.
There she is.
It scared me. But no, I just wanted to thank you. Yeah. I just want to thank you for coming and hanging out with us tonight and talking a little bit about what you do and who you are, what you've been through. And for anybody who wants to get deeper into the Bell Witch, you need to come out and see him one of the events.
Yes.
I'm kind of biased toward the Arkansas event, but yeah, it's fantastic. And he's got books on the table, and he'll sign it for you. Even have to take a picture with you and everything. He's kind of like a.
I got my picture with him. It was a
I got
pretty
my
darn
picture
cool
taken with him.
picture. He did the rock symbols, y'all. He did.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to thank you, Adrian and Tina, for inviting me back to the expo for another year. I really appreciate it. It really, these events, they really make my year.
Well, it's amazing too, because there's always that talk, because the people are always asking you questions and stuff like that. And I'm like, I really had no idea who the Bell Witch was until I heard of you. I didn't know about the Bell Witch until Mindy said something about you. We were talking about the Bell Witch. I'm like, the Bell who? I had no idea who that was. So
yeah, hey, that's a cheap knockoff of the Blair Witch.
I got your book.
Better than the Blair Witch. This one's
all right,
mainly real.
But anyhow, we're wrapping things up now, and I just, like I said, I just wanted to say thank you for hanging out with us. That was it's been a great show. Great hearing you talk. We can't wait to see you in October.
Yeah, you ain't got to go anywhere just yet.
Always my pleasure. Can't wait to go there and see you all again, and have you all buy me some dinner and give me some drinks.
Right?
I'm just
might have some extra stuff this year, depending. I don't know if Tina and Adrian are still planning anything, but we'll see.
Extra stuff.
Now, if there's moonshine, I might go.
Or is it that red hot drink?
We gotta.
That flaming, yeah.
I'm planning. I'm trying to plan something out. So I'm trying to figure something out. Anyhow, whatever. We'll figure it out. But we will see you in October.
Yes, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.